Activity 6. Interview successfully and get a job. Let's assume that you've received a call or email with an invitation to a person-to-person interview. You've done your homework, and you're ready to do your best. So let's dedicate 2 last lessons of our course to practical things that will greatly improve your chances of passing the interview. Please pay attention. These 2 lessons are extremely important for your career. Arrive on time, traffic jams, an accidental encounter with your ex-girlfriend or boyfriend, an upset stomach after burned toast, a missed train, a broken alarm clock, a flat tire, contact with a UFO. None of these moments of your pre-interview existence have any importance whatsoever to the interviewer. Try to arrive 30 minutes early. Find the right door, then go outside and walk around the building a few times, centering yourself and mentally preparing. Exactly 1 minute before the interview, knock at the door and tell the receptionist your name and the name of your interviewer. This is just business. Always remember, you have nothing to be shy about. You didn't come to solicit a free meal. You've come to offer your valuable time and effort. The interviewer is just another human being, no better and no worse than you are, and it's likely that he himself was interviewed and hired just a short time ago. This is just business. If you like each other, you might work together. If not, you'll find an even better company across the street. So be as confident as you can. Have a firm handshake. Look interviewers in the eyes. Be friendly and considerate. Whether or not you feel comfortable during your interview, try to be friendly. Make it easy for the interviewer to like you, but don't overdo it. During an interview, there is no room for things like anecdotes about lovers jumping from the balcony, stories about crazy college parties and their aftermath, jokes about gender, nationality, race, or religion, etc. A professional is not a person with merely technical skills. A professional is a person who knows what to say and when to say it. Put yourself into the interviewer's shoes. Example, imagine that you are conducting some interesting activity like coding or reading reviews about the newest Lexus. Suddenly, your manager comes to your desk, hands you somebody's resume, and asks you to interview that person. You reluctantly walk into the conference room after looking at the professional experience of this stranger. You try to come up with some smart questions, estimating how long the interview will take. It's almost lunchtime, and your stomach has just recalled those amazing kebabs from the new eatery around the corner. If the candidate is friendly, considerate, polite, and warm, you'll ask your babbling stomach to shut up for half an hour, and you'll try to have a pleasant talk with this great person who wants to work unlimited hours, including weekends and holidays, for any amount of money. If the interviewer wants to talk, let him talk. In many cases, an interviewer will want to share something with you, such as his excitement about the company. Don't interrupt. Be a good listener. Sometimes you can pass an interview using nothing but the word wow several times as the interviewer speaks and you listen. In general, it's a very good idea for you to discover a subject that the interviewer is passionate about. As a rule, that subject is the interviewer himself. This is one of the greatest selling techniques around. When you are being interviewed, you are simply selling your future time and efforts. Never speak negatively about your previous or current employers. This is against the rules. This topic might not apply for a first job candidate, but still, this is an extremely important point. Whether you used to work as a tester for a software company, an accountant for a hardware company, or a bricklayer for a construction company, you should never say anything negative about your employers. The most natural question asked during an interview is, why are you leaving your current job? Even if you are forced to look for a new job because of the racist, sexist, bigots, perverts, drunks, and other colorful personalities, resist the temptation to share your heartbreaking story because A. Interviewers don't care about your problems. If you need some compassion, tell your story to your spouse or a friend. B. You will look like a backstabber and a whiner. Both backstabbers and whiners are despised. The greatest answer ever is, I'm looking for a new challenge, aren't we all? After that answer, there are no other questions about why you want to quit your present job. When you are at the interview, the golden rule is this: either say positive things about your employers or say nothing about them. In the unlikely case of an interviewer who tries to provoke you to be negative, simply reply, "I never say negative things about my employers." Many good engineers failed their interviews because they share stories about their sinister employers. Complaining about your present or former employer is called negativity. Negativity is an opportunity killer. Never be negative at an interview. The interviewer is analyzing you as a potential coworker. Ask yourself honestly whom you would rather work with. Someone who is an amazing specialist but hates to shower, treats everybody as if they're stupid, talks about you behind your back, and reads German philosophers merely to snobbishly mention it during a conversation, or someone who is an absolute beginner but who is smart, motivated, honest, and positive, who wears clean clothes, who will stay at the office as long as needed to provide results and make his team look good. Someone who will always acknowledge his fault and never stab you in the back. You got the point. On the surface, it might seem like the interviewer who chooses the second candidate cares more about his own interests than the interests of his employer, but in reality, the second candidate will most likely bring much more to the company. Why? Because attitude is precious. The second candidate will bring comfort, reliability, and a joyful atmosphere to your team. And team productiveness has a direct correlation on how team members interact with each other and feel about each other. Here is another note about personality, more precisely, the element of personality known as enthusiasm. For many startup employees, working for a startup is not just a way to receive a paycheck, but it is also a way to live a dream, whether this dream is about making millions of dollars, making a difference, or something else. During the interview, don't be shy. Show your sincere excitement about the company. Example, let's say you are a huge fan of the baseball team, the San Francisco Giants. One person, Prashant, is a huge Giants fan just like you. Another person, Ron, likes baseball, but it doesn't really matter to him who plays. He just likes to sip his drink and watch the game. Question, if you have an extra ticket for a San Francisco Giants game, who would you ask to join you? Most likely, you'll invite Prashant because you both share the same passion. By analogy, startup employees are, as a rule, huge fans of their companies, and if you show that you are a fan too at the interview, you'll have much more of a chance to be invited to a game, which is to be hired. Brain positioning. If you find out that the employees of a startup are not passionate about their company, for example, they are not using the company's product for themselves, assuming that product is something for regular people, for example, social networking, you should perceive this as a big warning sign about that startup's future success. In all successful companies, the early employees are crazy about their products. It's impossible to imagine early PayPal employees who wouldn't use PayPal on a regular basis or wouldn't promote it to all of his friends and relatives. Honesty and sincerity wins hearts, while lies and attempts to conceal something are sure ways to ruin your interview. You simply cannot know all the correct answers to all the interview questions because this is your first job. Just try to come to terms with that truth. So how should you handle it if you are asked a question you don't know the answer to? Do not wrinkle your forehead, move your lips, do anything else that attempts to show that you are digging something from the caves of your memory. By doing any of the above, you simply insult the other person's intelligence and waste his time. Do say two things sincerely and confidently. 1. I don't know. This is a testimony to your honesty. 2. If needed, I'll learn it. This is a testimony to your attitude. The combination of these two phrases is probably the most powerful tool you have during your first interview. Once again, if you don't know something, say, I don't know, but if needed, I'll learn it. This might sound like oversimplification, but it works. Even seasoned professionals use the I don't know, if needed, I'll learn it combo. This is because the world of technology is so diverse and complex that no one can know it all. Another aspect is that your readiness to learn new things is one of the greatest assets a software engineer can possess. So make sure that the interviewer knows that you are open to learn. Don't get upset or angry, especially if the interview doesn't go smoothly. No matter what happens, try to stay calm, friendly, and respectful. Example, during one of his early interviews, Max almost bolted from the conference room when the interviewer went to get some water. Max felt terrible because the interviewer could barely understand his Russian accent. Max thought that his answers were terrible, and he was very anxious. His temptation to run away was so strong that it was nothing less than divine intervention that made him stay in his chair, but he didn't give up. He stayed and did his best during the rest of the interview. The next day, to his enormous surprise, he got a job offer. Max was right about his accent. It was terrible. But the interviewers liked so much his attitude, knowledge, and positive energy that they decided to hire him, and they never looked back. The thing here is that it doesn't matter what you think about how the interview is going. What matters is what the interviewers decide between themselves after the interview. So try to relax and do your best. It's easier to say, try to relax, than to actually relax, but it is doable. Here are a couple of techniques to help you feel more confident. 1. Decrease the value of this particular job by thoughts like, is this the only company in the world? Or, this company is too far from my home, or maybe I can get a better salary at another company, etc. 2. Try to imagine the worst thing that could happen. Are you going to be put in the electric chair or be eaten alive by a great white shark if you don't pass that interview? No. If you don't pass it, you'll just get upset, get over it, and then send out some more resumes and get another interview at an even better company. Never cancel an interview until you accept a job offer. Example, James had a very smooth interview at Company A. He felt loved and was expecting a job offer any minute, so he was careless enough to cancel an interview at Company B. Guess what? The folks from Company A never called him back. He waited for a week and then called them himself. The QA manager from Company A apologized for not calling, but told my friend they decided to hire another candidate. James rushed to call Company B, only to find out that no one was interested in talking to him anymore because the position had already been filled. But canceling interviews has even more negative sides. By canceling an interview, you deprive yourself of the valuable opportunity to 1. Find out what questions are asked at interviews, in general, at the company with a certain type of technology in a certain geographical area. 2. Learn the correct answers to the above questions. 3. Polish your communication skills. 4. Improve your general interview skills. Interviewing well is a separate skill. It might sound like a paradox, but in reality there is very little relationship between how good a person looks during the interview and how well that person would work. There are lousy workers who pass an interview with flying colors, and there are great specialists who barely make it to a job offer. What is required to improve any skill? Simple. You need a lot of practice. With each new interview, you'll learn more and thus improve your interview skills. Those skills will help you to find your first job, and they will continue to be great professional assets that you use hunting for each new job. Sometimes you should postpone your interview. Example, John had passed 2 phone interviews and the QA manager invited him on site. Interviewers were smart and nice. They were asking practical questions that John was supposed to answer smoothly, but he didn't. So what went wrong? 2 things. 1. He had a red-eye flight before the interview and had only 4 hours of sleep. 2. He was taking anti-allergy medication. Absence of sleep and strong medication gave him a massive brain fog. It's a state when your smarts go down from 100 to 10%. It's that bad. It was the worst interview John had in his life, and here is the lesson that he learned. If you don't feel good physically, mentally, etc., postpone your interview. It's better this way. Good people will understand, and if somebody will not, it's not a kind of company you want to work for. Remember that an interview is a dialogue, not an interrogation. A friend once told us that the night before her first interview, she had a dream that her interview was just like a scene from the movie Conspiracy Theory, when Mel Gibson was tied to the chair, a bright light shining in his eyes, his eyelids taped open, and the iron voice of the CIA agent was asking scary questions. Your imagination can create the most fearsome situations, but the truth is that nobody is going to interrogate you during a job interview. You are not going to be tortured, made miserable, or be given a choice, death or the right answer to what a test plan is. An interview is simply a conversation. As a rule, it's the type of dialogue where one person asks questions and another person answers those questions, but in many cases, it's a great idea to turn the interview into a typical conversation where people ask each other questions. An interview is a great source of knowledge, so use that opportunity to learn things. Usually at the end of an interview, it's customary for the interviewer to ask you if you have any questions, but our point is that you don't have to wait for that moment. Try to elegantly, elegance is key here, direct the conversation into the two-way mode. For example, interviewer, what experiences do you have with Python? You? I know the basics about string operations, file management, and CGI scripting. Which Python skills, in your opinion, are the most valuable in your company? If you sense that the interviewer wants to keep things in an I ask you, you answer me format, do it his way. Don't push. Also, you'll probably make it easier for the interviewer if the two of you have less formal communication. What are the benefits of having less formal communication? You let the interviewer be heard. We all love to be heard, and we like people who listen to us. You fill the interview time with more than just questions about your skills. You don't have too many skills when you're applying for your first job. You have more opportunities to talk about your attitude. Your attitude is your main advantage, so use every opportunity to talk about it. You'll get a lot of information on many formal and informal subjects. Our friend once told us about a situation where some interviewers were talking negative about their colleagues from the same company. Do you really want to be a part of this kind of a team? Lesson recap. 1. Never be late for the interview. It's considered a bad sign when a candidate is late. 2. Always remember, you have nothing to be shy about. You didn't come to solicit a free meal. You've come to offer your valuable time and effort. 3. Whether or not you feel comfortable during your interview, try to be friendly. Make it easy for the interviewer to like you, but don't overdo it with stuff like inappropriate jokes, etc. 4. If the interviewer wants to talk, let him talk. 5. Never speak negatively about your previous or current employers. This is against the rules. 6. Negativity is an opportunity killer. Never be negative at an interview. 7. The interviewer is analyzing you as a potential coworker. 8. Once again, if you don't know something, say, I don't know, but if needed, I'll learn it. 9. Don't get upset or angry, especially if the interview doesn't go smoothly. No matter what happens, try to stay calm, friendly, and respectful. It's not you who will make the decision whether to give you a job offer or not. 10. Never cancel an interview until you accept a job offer. 11. It might make sense to postpone your interview if you don't feel good physically or mentally. 12. An interview is a dialogue, not an interrogation. So don't feel trapped like Mel Gibson in The Conspiracy Theory. Instead, relax and communicate.